Hi Libra, I'm Susan, I'm your intuitive, and this is your April 2025 reading, Aries/Taurus season. We're going to get right into love first, and then we're going to do money. So you've had Venus active in your 6th house for Libra risings, and it will finally move into your 7th house. So all of this love and money as well, everything we've been learning will start to be put into practice now more than ever. And also, I would suggest that you reflect to about 2 years ago, around this time, March and April, even May for some of you, and what had happened around that time, even last year, during the eclipses where we wrapped up your eclipse cycle, as well as with this ending of the full moon. So this is your post full moon in Libra reading, post pink moon. Let's talk about love, Libra. You want a specific answer. I don't really bring answers. You have free will, but I will have insight. So the insight has arrived, Libra. Okay. Oh my God. The access has arrived. The access of Aries and Libra. And it all depends on your courage and your bravery at this time. Whoever, especially in love where things have been slow, and if there is a specific Libra or Aries in your life, it's possible that they've been falling short. But it's also about you and where you've been putting your energy as well. This is very specific. So if you are, we're going to talk about if you're partnered. If you're partnered, then it's really important that you be brave and to say the thing. Say the thing you might say to another person. Especially if you have a tendency to gossip outside of your relationship. This could be about your relationships as well, not just love, how you are in relationship. You're going to see the people in your life who you allow, that's very important to remember, who you allow to gain access and value to you through that kind of behavior. Whether it's talking about people or whatever it is, you're starting to see more than ever. And it's possible that you're doing the courageous and brave thing too by saying, I'm not going to interact in that, and notice the responses. Or notice the responses if you're not giving people what they want right away. This is about that self-sacrificing access of Aries and Libra. So we're entering this codependent access, and is there a positive part to each access? Yes. I'm not saying that there isn't. However, this is the parts that do come up and that need to be addressed. So anyone falling short, meaning they don't add value to your life and they're only wanting value from you, it's really important that you do the brave, independent thing and recalibrate and balance yourself in order to balance these relationships. And there will be times where you can't do that, where you can't do it on your own, balancing the relationship just by doing what you need to do. Sometimes there will need to be a conversation. Sometimes that conversation doesn't go necessarily the way that we want it to go either. So it's about being open at this time to having to take a risk for some of you. For others of you, if you're not addressing this and you're involved in these conversations, be very careful, because you never know what's going to come back around. And also I would take a look at what are your tendencies. Is there something, are you not being satisfied in your relationship? Are there things that are happening there where you're wanting certain attention, energy outside the relationship? Because as we know, I'm also going to talk about how this could be a third-party person too. So there's quite a few things in this reading already. Whatever is being brought to you, you can handle. You know, the biggest thing here is to remember that if you're the one starting these conversations or initiating them, or you're the one playing into them, if someone else is bringing it up and you don't want to disturb whatever, all you have to do is either walk away, give yourself the freedom to walk away from them, or say out loud hey, I'm just not going to contribute to this, because that could be the Achilles heel to whatever is blocking you from moving forward in your relationship or in partnership in general if you are single. Now, we do know that gossip and talking has saved lives, so I'm not saying that to totally forego it in all of the ways. As an air sign, you're meant to circulate, you're meant to say things, you're meant to bring your energy forward in that way. But it looks like there is, it's really about you breaking free from some pattern. So for some of you, if you are partnered, I would say just be careful of what you're not getting and try to address it in your relationship. Or if you are aware enough of it to like, or if you're not aware of it is what I mean, to be able to allow yourself that space and room to receive the reflections that you may need to receive at this time, to guide whatever direction that you're going to next. Now, if you're single and you haven't learned this lesson, you may be inviting this lesson or this way of looking at things into your life at this time. And this is something that I've thought about quite a bit amongst relationships, and especially with Mars moving into Leo and it being having been in Cancer, it hasn't showed up here, but everything going into Aries brings a lot of independence. And what I've seen so far and how we're balancing out in this human life, and this pertains to Libra, which is why I'm sharing it, is that we can be hyper independent and not know how to merge, right? That hyper independence, that no one can do what we can do, and then allowing for support, but also knowing how to ask for that support, right? So that difference between being hyper independent and at the same time wanting something passionate, wanting something where someone provides for you, but you actually have to communicate that. You can't just like think it in your head. It's okay to ask for what you're wanting or looking for. If you are in a situation and you think you're dating and you're not really sure, even though like it seems like you are, and we would call those situationships, but your brain is like, no, I'm in a relationship. It's important to get clear because that person might not know, and they may have been having a lot of fun regardless of on the side of you, even though that you show up the way that you do. It's be very careful, because for you, the thing about Libra, inanimate object, the more I get to know us, because I am a Libra sun, the more I realize that the reason why your scales get so tipped and the reason why you don't really get it is because of that inanimate object, really relating it to that. You don't always know when you're doing it. And that's why, the self-sacrificing, because this is the self-sacrificing axis, Libra and Aries. It's learning not to do that. But how do you learn if you're not willing to do that or understand what that looks like for you? And just so you know, you have the wherewithal, you have the bandwidth to be able to confront or have the hard conversations or make the next right decision for yourself at this time. And you're being given that energy in the area of your one-on-one relationships, whether it is a partnership or a marriage, or you're entering or you're dating, right? This is the one thing that I've realized, is that it doesn't matter how much energy or effort you put in, or even if you show up as great as you are, you may be giving too much, causing, you to resent, even though you haven't had that conversation, especially if you're single, Libra. And if you're not single and there's an imbalance showing up there, it's really important that you give energy to yourself and understand that it doesn't matter how long you've been in something or doing something the same way. That doesn't mean that you hold on. It doesn't mean that you hold on. Because what will happen, the energy that I picked up during this full moon, what will happen during this time as everything now shifts, meaning Mercury will shift in a few days into Aries, Mars will shift in a few days into Leo, and then Venus will shift in about 2 weeks almost into Aries as well. And regardless of if you're still back and forth during all of this water energy until we get into that fire energy of knowing and really seeing clearly, just know that that's the process. That it's okay if you didn't know now, or if you kind of knew then. It's okay that this is all in terms of work, you know, literally work for Libra risings and partnership, that it's been a little confusing, that you haven't been sure. And then when everything starts to move forward, then you can also move forward with it. Don't blame yourself. And if you know, it doesn't make it any easier unless you're moving through the motions and taking, you know, initiative, you're taking accountability, even if that's within yourself. So just be wary of the more that you now that, let me say this, now that Venus has gone direct, notice who comes your way. Because remember, look at these two different people coming towards you. It doesn't mean that they're technically the right options, right? You want to be very careful. And actually, I heard this recently, I thought, from a neuroscientist, that if you're single, and in reflect, if you remember, right? If you remember what cycle, what time in your cycle you're at, and if you're partnered, is that if you meet someone when you are ovulating, right? There's a difference between the attraction of when you're ovulating and when you're menstruating. So she said, like, fuck boys normally approach you during when you're ovulated, because that's when there's a certain kind of energy. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know exactly, but you can look into that yourself. But just like be aware of what you attract during what cycle, because you are a Venusian sign, so you're going to start attracting people more and more, especially now that everything's moving into your 7th house. You'll have plenty of opportunities. If you're single and looking and dating, you know, just, this is important. These boundaries, this clearing, this understanding of yourself is important before anything, you know, serious happens, because you need to know for you. And the right person will will be open to those conversations as well. If you have met someone you really like, start having the conversations right away. You know, if things get hard right away, that's something to question, of course. But if you like learning to be open, you know, how people are with you. It's very like, for some reason you make people feel comfortable where they just feel open with you. All right, so now money. Is that too many cards? Yeah, too many cards. So we're gonna go to the money. Before we go to money, all information to work with me one-on-one is below. My website, schedule link, payment options, and the Patreon link to get more into this extended version. So we go more in depth into the cards, into the month ahead, and that is on Patreon. That will be in the first link below. If you want to find me, Venusian Wave on everything, TikTok, Instagram, all that jazz. So money. It looks like it's been stuck, or there's been a lot of learning in the past 6 weeks or in this past month with money. And it's really important. The guidance is over, like an overhaul. It's just saying, like, keep focusing on yourself. Keep adding value to yourself. That's the way you pull through this. That's the way, because Venus, having been in your 6th house of work and health, it probably took a toll on your health. That's why you've had to notice, for those of you who got sick or felt really stuck, especially for Libra risings, and maybe you were overworking and you didn't know you were overworking. That is what I would have you pay attention to at this time, and not to overwork in your relationship either as things move into Aries. It's important to find, okay, in order to get through wherever you've been stuck or held up with money, where have you not been adding value to your life? Where have you been taking from your life? And it will show up very clearly, loud and clear. For a lot of you, you already know what it is that I'm talking about. We have Pluto cards. And then we have the Wheel of Fortune. Like, maybe it's coming through out of nowhere, because the 6th house, 12th house axis. Yeah, this is you refocusing, redirecting your energy, and being called towards it. You know, this could also be you needing to speak up and This is for some of you out there. This is very specific. You may need to speak up about how much value you add, and if someone's not willing to listen because of how much you are willing to do and maybe overgive at times, which cause a detriment to you, maybe you need to speak up about how much value you add and they need to listen. Regardless if that keeps you in the same job or the same place, you're showing initiative in a way that maybe they didn't know that you wanted, right? If you want to raise, if you want to be seen, if you want to be involved more, it's about speaking up, not just doing more than what's expected of you. And then you'll maybe most likely get the right kind of guidance that you need. For others of you, again, having this cross here, if this is over giving your energy, over amount, and over an amount of what you're supposed to, you may get sick, something will happen so that you slow down. This is the transformation of this area of your life. And especially if you're looking for more abundance, if you're wanting to add more, you add value. And it's about hearing and acknowledging that as you're putting energy into whatever you're creating or your line of work or where you want to go next, it's really important that you know that this message, that this understanding is coming from a source of knowing. That you also are willing to listen. Because the way forward is not only adding value, but speaking your value, sharing your value, so that others can value you, so that they can show up for you in this way. And it can be such a dichotomy because sometimes it's you don't even know, you think you're doing something and then you don't know. And that's why being a Libra can be, or having Libra placements can feel, especially the top three, right? It's not in the sun, moon, rising, the sun and moon especially, Libra isn't their favorite place to be, right? And not that, Libras aren't loved, beloved, and beautiful, and smart, and intelligent. It's just that those are the areas in which it can be very interesting, right? Ungrounded, unclear, unless you are weighing things out and balancing them. So as you balance out your love life, you balance out your money life. It really is going hand in hand at this time, and it's about your energy. And if no one believes you, right, or if you're not so sure, which makes people not believe you or not take you serious, this Judgment card is then you show them. You don't need to tell them, you just show them. You do, and you remain clear, and you not only, not that I want you to threaten people, not that I'm telling you that, but no false, threats, no empty threats, no empty words. Say what you mean what you say, and act on it. That is what is needed, Libra. Really happy that we talked. All information is below. We'll get much deeper into it. We have the kidneys, the head, the voice, the ovaries and the voice more so, and the mind out here. So there's some things that you need to get out into the open, and it requires your bravery. It requires your strength. It requires your skill to utilize your voice and be heard, and also to listen. Right? That's the benefit, is you listening and hearing and knowing when it's the right moment. And you will. I'm sure of it. Okay? We'll see you next time.